families and a small group of well-wishers before they head out to the pad.
There are 3 Teslas waiting to drive the crew out to Launch Complex 39A. Riding in the first car, we'll have the spacecraft closeout lead and a couple of suit techs. In the second Tesla, we will have Shane and Megan, and they'll be sharing a ride with our flight surgeon. And in the third vehicle will be Aki and Thomas and another closeout lead. Of course, we're going to try and follow the convoy live every step of the way. It is the middle of the night / morning, so there we could see the Teslas awaiting the crew to take them to the pad. But we will try to bring you as close as possible to the crew without actually being inside the car with them.
Tracy, what's it like for you seeing the crew here in these moments before they walk out and remembering what your experience was like?
Like I said, this is the moment where the on gets turned on, and you're looking at your crewmates, and you're going to be doing something pretty exciting here. But there's it seems like a long way to go before liftoff because there's a lot of milestones to meet, and a lot of coordination that has to happen. So you're kind of in this meta state of excitement and focus.
We have another guest close by for launch today who looks forward to the day when she may be also suiting up in this room. Let's go to NASA's Jasmine Hopkins at the Operations Support Building 2 to meet this guest. Jasmine?
Tens of times with the SpaceX team and the NASA team. So what we're seeing here really is just another time. They could probably do this in their sleep at this point. Yeah. One thing real quick I want to point out before we lose this shot, the small blue boxes there that you see behind the crew members that has kind of like an elephant's trunk, an umbilical that's plugging into the leg of each crew member. Gosh, I love the frivolity that we see here. It's so wonderful.
Gotta get a good shot.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention it because I figured we'd lose the shot. Those blue boxes are basically flowing cool nitrox or nitrogen oxygen mixture air, which is basically the stuff that you have in a scuba tank. We're trying to keep the astronauts cool while they're in their suits. While they're moving around, it can get a little warm, and we want to keep them comfortable until they are seated in their seat inside Crew Dragon. So that's what those small boxes are, and they will have those along with them inside the Teslas during the ride out as well.
I think we'll have time for a couple of social media questions, but another note just about the timeline. If you've been following along with all of our anticipated times, the crew right now we've seen is ahead of schedule in terms of completing their suit up process. This is a very limber, quick crew. We observed this during the dry dress rehearsal over the weekend. They were ahead of schedule getting suited up. We do still expect them to walk out at the anticipated time. We expect that will happen at T-minus 3 hours and 20 minutes. So about 9 minutes from now is roughly when they should walk out of the operations and checkout building. But up to this point, they've been a little bit ahead of schedule. Let's take a couple of social media questions while we're waiting for that to happen. Okay, this one, this is a good one for Tracy. Why are very specific times chosen for launches?
A lot of it has to do with orbital mechanics and where the space station is over Kennedy Space Center at the time. And so we are basically launching a vehicle to chase the space station, and it has much to do with that.
All right, next question. How long does it take to refurbish a crewed Dragon, and how many times can Dragon be reused? As we're looking outside the ONC, Kate, this is a good one for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of how long, it's hard to say right now because this is the first time that we did it, and the first time that you refurbish something, or really the first time you do anything, is generally the longest it will take you to do something. We have been working on the refurbishment of this Crew Dragon capsule since it splashed down in August of last year. So just under a year, basically to get it in a state and launch ready. We can see some well-wishers here gathering outside the Teslas as they're awaiting the crew to come and do the walkout and final goodbyes. But getting back to the question, the second part of the question was how many times can a Crew Dragon capsule be reused? We are certified for 5, but there might be plans in the future to try and increase that. That's obviously a discussion that happens, but down the road. But at this point in time, we're shooting for 5 reuses.
All right, we have time for another question from social media. And this one, when will the astronauts on the International Space Station return to Earth? Great question. So the Crew 1 astronauts, of course, that launched from here in Florida this past November, they are scheduled to return on April 28th, and they will be splashing down off the Florida coast. SpaceX hasn't narrowed down a specific location just yet, but they will be splashing down somewhere either in the Gulf of Mexico or along the eastern coast of Florida about 12:30 Eastern time on April 28th. And we see a few more folks coming outside in anticipation of the crew walkout. It looks like Elon Musk and Steve Jurczyk, the NASA administrator, taking their spots to the right of your screen. We also can see astronaut support crew members and some suit technicians gathered outside there.
We can also see some of the crew members' families. I recognize some of them there in the background. Those blue suiters, those astronauts that are there are the unsung heroes. They are there as family escorts, personally selected by the crew members to care for their family, both immediate and the extended family and friends that are here. So hats off to those guys because they are there to care for the families.
And Tracy, how meaningful is it for the families to have this opportunity to see the crew walk out?
You know, I'm glad you asked that because this is the first time that we allow family to be at this point, so the crew members get to see their family. During shuttle, that was mainly employees and our families were elsewhere, either on the roof of LCC or at Banana Creek. And so it is so important, and it will be vital for the crew to see their families and their families to see them just before they head out to the pad.
Like we mentioned earlier, pilot Megan MacArthur is married to NASA astronaut Bob Behnken, who flew on the Demo 2 mission last year. And so we expect to see Bob. I can't quite tell which one he is from this angle, but I'm sure we'll see it up close later. And it's just, I think it is so awesome that, Megan was seeing him off a year ago, and now he's seeing her off to do the same position. And I just think that's really cool. They are a power couple, and I love it.
Yeah, ultimate power couple.
Yeah.
And Tracy, I remember you saying, we were talking about this earlier, and that it's the harder job of the family member to say goodbye to their astronaut when it's their day to fly.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Bob is keeping it together on the outside, but inside he's way more nervous, I bet, today than he was on the day he was sitting on that seat on the launch pad. Just a guess.
And so it is T-minus 3 hours, 24 minutes and counting. And any moment now, we expect to see the crew leave the room and start walking down the hallway. We'll see them get into an elevator, and here is a shot of the elevator. So, the hallway. And so where those, that is Joe Acaba to the left.
And Jessica Watkins, one of our newer astronauts there. They both are part of the VIT team, the Vehicle Integration and Test team office.
And we'll see the crew walk out. There's a doorway to the left of your screen where Joe and Jessica are facing, and we'll see the crew walk out of that doorway and come straight down towards where
we did do full mock-up.
And here they come, the Crew 2 astronauts taking their first steps outside before their journey to space.
Yay!
I love this moment. They're now going to have the opportunity to wave goodbye from a safe distance. The distance is normal protocol for spaceflight. This is not a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This would be in place even if we didn't have that situation going on. But I love this moment. It's a wonderful opportunity to see the astronauts get some final farewells from their friends and family members.
We've got Shane and Megan to the right of your screen, Thomas and Aki to the left.
There's Shane's wife.
Shane and his wife posing for a socially distanced photo.
Yes.
And it looks like Bob Behnken is there in a blue polo with the son of he and Megan MacArthur. Yeah, there's a better shot of Bob, Megan, and their son. What an experience as their son to do this twice.
Get to see dad and mom go to space.
He's going to think this is normal to whatever all kids experience.
And you can see on the license plate of that Tesla, recycle. You can't see it from this shot, but the other two Teslas in this convoy have reduce and reuse.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
the first one is
pretty cool.
reduce, the second one is reuse, and this one is recycle.
A nod there again to Earth Day, the originally planned date for launch.
I'm more impressed by the Tesla than by the rocket.
And we see those Tesla doors starting to close now.
Like I mentioned before, the equipment is already in the Tesla. The astronauts are plugged into that small blue box, and they're getting that cool air flowing through their suits once again. And the AC is turned up on high in those Teslas to make sure everybody's comfy.
You've seen some people go around to the backside of the cars. This is another opportunity for family members to approach and have a little bit more private moment with their crew member before they leave.
With the windows up, of course.
Yes.
I can't tell you how meaningful this is for crew to have this opportunity to see their loved one this close to heading out to the pad. This is a nice change that we've made.
And this is the car carrying Shane Kimbrough on the right rear passenger side, and Megan MacArthur is on the left rear passenger side. And then this the third Tesla in the convoy here with the recycle license plate has Thomas sitting on the back rear side and Aki sitting on the left rear side. And as soon as the families come back around, we should see the convoy begin to pull away. Right on schedule.
We love you. I love you too, brother.
O&C departure on schedule.
All right, so we just heard that announcement that the crew has departed the operations and checkout building on schedule. They are now on their way to Launch Complex 39A, scheduled to lift off at 5:49 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. It will be about a 15-minute drive with a full security escort across NASA's Kennedy Space Center and out to the launch pad. And as we follow the convoy, we'd like to share some words from the teams working so hard day and night to get this crew to the International Space Station.
It looks a little different. We did make some upgrades to aesthetics, but a lot of it was safety driven. I believe, the shuttle structures were iconic. It was, of course, heartbreaking for everyone to see the rotating service structure come down, but we did have to remove it for safety purposes, but also it was just unnecessary for what we would be doing to advance the next generation of human spaceflight. So I will say that the tower there does have the bones of that original fixed service structure, and so there are.
All right, that was a look at Aki Hoshide, and we can see the astronauts inside the crew access arm. That walkway. Here are Commander Shane Kimbrough and pilot Megan MacArthur. Making their way up behind them are ESA astronaut Thomas Pesquet and JAXA astronaut Aki Hoshide, and we'll be seeing them make their way up. There they are, coming up the steps. And they'll be stopping to use the phone. Shane and Megan already had the opportunity to do that. That phone is up where you see the person in the black suit. That looks like Jessica Meir, number 38, part of the closeout team at the pad. And this is a shot inside the white room. Astronaut Shane Kimbrough to the left of your screen, and to the right you can see the side hatch of the Crew Dragon Endeavour is open. In preparation for the next milestone, which will be crew ingress in just a few minutes. If you're just joining us, you're watching live coverage of NASA's SpaceX mission known as Crew 2. Good morning and welcome to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm Marie Lewis with NASA Communications.
And I'm Kate Tice, Senior Certification Engineer at SpaceX. Joining us today is NASA astronaut Tracy Caldwell Dyson. Welcome, Tracy. We're so happy that you're able to join us this morning.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Marie. It's great to be here.
So as you can see, the crew has already arrived at Pad 39A, where Falcon 9 will lift off at 5:49 a.m. Eastern Time. We can see that Megan and Shane are in the white room here, undergoing final checkouts and just comfort checks with the suit and closeout team. One thing that we'll see them do momentarily is the closeout lead there on the right-hand side with the tablet will provide them with a black Sharpie, and they're going to actually add their signature to the wall to their right of this white room. We named it the white room to keep, again, in space tradition. From previous human spaceflight programs, but something different this time. We're actually having all the astronauts that fly on Crew Dragon sign their names. And there's a shot inside the crew tower. It looks like where Aki and Thomas are now using the telephone for a final goodbye. Now, Tracy, do you want to talk a little bit about the significance of that particular telephone?
All hooked up to their umbilicals, and the umbilicals allow.
From here in California, the SpaceX flight control team monitoring
Inside the crew tower, it looks like where Aki and Thomas are now using the telephone for a final goodbye. Now, Tracy, do you want to talk a little bit about the significance of that particular telephone?
I think it's a great way to surprise your family and friends on launch day. I know that my parents were not expecting it, and it was probably one of the more emotional moments for them.
And in a moment, we will see Commander Shane Kimbrough. Here he is climbing inside Crew Dragon Endeavour. We call this process ingress. And pilot Megan MacArthur following.
So we can see the closeout team assisting the crew.
Crew ingress has started on schedule.
Announcement there that we are on schedule with our activity here of crew ingress. Like I was saying, you can see the closeout team assisting the crew as they enter the capsule to assure that they don't ding their helmet or any part of their suit on the hatch as they're entering. There's also some protective coverings around the hatch itself, but just to make sure that there's a clear path to entry, we now see suit technicians assisting the crew getting settled and will help the crew members get buckled in. The harness that we see coming into the picture here is not just your normal seat belt, although it does function in that purpose. It's a 5-point harness, and the crew will start to buckle themselves in, and kind of like when you get on a roller coaster, like you get your initial fit up, and then your safety team member comes over and makes sure that you're locked and loaded and ready to go. This is a great shot because we can actually see the touch screen, the LCD display screens above the crew. They might look in an awkward position right now. That's just because the seats are actually in a rotated downward for crew ingress. After everyone is all buckled in and the communications and leak checks have been performed, the seats will rotate back so that the crew has easier access to those display screens. But in addition to those display screens, they also have a tablet
suits, which could potentially cause damage to Dragon. In fact, we also heard an informal comm check. We heard the voices of Shane Kimbrough and Megan MacArthur in the seats right now. They'll do a more formal poll as we get later into the ingress procedures.
And we got some really cool views of the second two astronauts walking through the crew arm, making their way to the Dragon capsule. And to help protect against debris, the crew has covers on their boots as well as on their umbilical port on their suits that need to be removed before they can ingress. And once the FOD check was complete for the first two astronauts, Commander Shane Kimbrough ingressed first, followed by Megan. And then next up we will have Aki and Thomas, who just made it to the white room that you can see on your left-hand screen. And Megan and Commander Shane Kimbrough are now strapped in. They're getting all hooked up to their umbilicals, and the umbilicals allow the crew to have their comms through their suit, air to help keep them cool, as well as delivers nitrox for suit pressurization. And as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the suit's primary function is to protect the crew in the event of a cabin depressurization.
Now, there are 4 seats configured right now inside Dragon. They're numbered 1 to 4 from right to left. When you're looking at the seats, you can see Shane Kimbrough now positioned in seat 2, or the commander seat. Megan MacArthur beside him now in seat 3, which for Crew Dragon is the pilot seat. Aki Hoshide will take the seat
at about T-minus 1 hour, 55 minutes. SpaceX engineers right now, they're continuing to pressurize the launch vehicle gas storage bottles. These are composite overwrapped pressure vessels. They contain gases used to fill the tanks with hot helium as the propellant is drained out of the first and second stages. We're also storing helium and nitrogen gases on the vehicle. We use those to spin the Merlin engine turbopumps when we start an engine in space. For example, when we light the second stage engine after it separates from the first stage. We're also using gas for attitude control systems. Both the first and second stages of the Falcon 9 have an ACS system. And finally, the landing systems use the gas to help with the grid fins and then deploying the legs right before touchdown on the drone ship. Now, currently for Falcon 9, the countdown is proceeding nominally at this point. On board the Dragon spacecraft Endeavour, we heard the comm checks just a little while ago between Dragon team and crew. We've seen the astronauts rotate their seats to the flight position. We've successfully completed the suit leak checks, and we're watching right now as the hatch is coming down as part of the closure sequence of events. And then once we get the hatch closed, the SpaceX support team will perform a final leak check of that hatch. Now, once that leak check is finished and it passes, the team will then begin the steps to ready the access arm for retraction. Once they've got everything configured, the team will leave the pad by T-minus 1 hour at the latest. Now, T-minus 2 hours coming up here very shortly. Kennedy Space Center personnel will begin final sweeps of the flight caution and hazard areas. Right now, the only people that are inside the roadblocks in a perimeter around pad 39A are the crew and the SpaceX support team that you see on your monitor. And right now, as we get ready to bring the hatch down, we're going to go back to the team at Kennedy Space Center.
Thanks for that update, John. As you can see, we are preparing for the closure of the side hatch. The closeout team there in the black SpaceX flight suits that you see have performed a final FOD check, and they've gotten the final okay from the crew inside the capsule to confirm that they are indeed ready to go to space today. As you can see, the side hatch has just been closed. This is a little bit more complicated than it may seem. So it's this initial closure, and then there will be actual mechanical closure using a torque wrench, which we should see here momentarily. Might be, yeah, we can see that happening now. And then afterward, we will inflate the seal that's around the side hatch.
30 seconds to go until launch.
Seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Mission and liftoff. Godspeed, Endeavour and Crew 2.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Endeavour launches once again. 4 astronauts from 3 countries on Crew 2, now making their way to the one and only International Space Station. The vehicle is pitching downrange. 9 Merlin engines on the first stage, providing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Hearing good calls on the first stage performance so far.
We are T plus 30 seconds into the second rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9. Falcon 9 will be throttling down the 9 Merlin engines shortly here in preparation for maximum dynamic pressure. And there's that call out for the throttle down. Maximum dynamic pressure, max Q, is the largest structural load that the vehicle sees throughout ascent. So throttling down does help us pass. Throttling down helps us pass through this period, which should be coming here shortly.
Max Q.
There's that call out that we have just passed through max Q.
Stage 1, throttle up.
And
1
we can
Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
All right, 1 Bravo is the second abort mode on the first stage. The first stage continues to fire for 2 minutes, 35 seconds. 1.5 minutes into today's flight. Falcon 9 now traveling at more than 1,500 miles an hour.
MVAC engine chill started.
All right, the engine chill for the second stage single Merlin engine has started. About 30 more seconds of the first stage firing to bring our 4 astronauts into orbit.
Now from here, coming up in about 20-some seconds, we're going to have 3 major milestones. We'll have shutdown of the 9 Merlin engines. We're beginning to throttle them down. We will then get stage separation.
1, throttle down.
And then we will get ignition of the second stage engine to propel Dragon and the Falcon 9 second stage into orbit.
Two Alpha.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
Confirmed.
Acquisition signal, right. Ignition.
And we have ignition of the second stage. You see the green flash of that T-TEB fluid. The expansion nozzle on the second stage Merlin vacuum glowing that bright red that we like to see. Good performance on the second stage so far.
And on the left side of your screen, we saw the exhaust of the second stage engine streaming past the first stage as the grid fins are coming out. We also briefly had a view of the lights of Central Florida in the background. Currently, the first stage is continuing to coast up to apogee. It's unpowered. It'll reach a peak height and then begin to descend back down toward the Earth's atmosphere, where it will light 3 engines to slow down in preparation for what will be a landing burn on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. You can see the grid fins are deployed right now. The first stage
Dragon
pulsing.
SpaceX trajectory nominal.
We're pulsing the thrusters.
Signal of Bermuda.
Copy, nominal trajectory.
And we hear a call out from the crew, nominal trajectory. So we're beginning to move the
Long until the spacecraft separates from the Falcon 9. Of course, both now in a nominal orbit. It's great to see some of the views of the Earth as it passes by over the North Atlantic Ocean. All right, we're getting shots of the crew in orbit. I'm looking for that 0G indicator. Can't seem to see it in this shot, but we have a minute to go until we have spacecraft separation. Dragon traveling at nearly 17,000 miles per hour at an altitude of 124 miles. Again, the 4-person crew of Endeavour is in orbit right now. Less than 30 seconds until we have spacecraft separation. Ten seconds to spacecraft separation. We should hear words from the core here in Mission Control Hawthorne once we have successful separation. Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon, SpaceX, Dragon team wishes you a great rest of your trip. Say hi to the crew of Dragon who's waiting for us and let them know your rocket is home safe. Thanks for flying our first flight proven crewed Falcon 9. Sierra side, Crew 2.
Thank you very much. We're great. It's glad to be back in space for all of us, and we'll send our regards to Crew 1 when we get there. Thanks.
Absolutely stunning views from both inside the cabin, seeing the excitement of our 4-person crew inside Endeavour, and watching Endeavour drift away from the camera on the second stage as the Earth passes by on an orbital sunrise.
SpaceX Endeavour,
And Endeavour, you cut out a little bit there. If the question was if you're go to open visors, you are go to open visors at this time.
Copy and work. Thanks.
All right, 13 and a half minutes past liftoff. The crew is in orbit, traveling at nearly 17,000 miles an hour.
Well, Gary, I don't know about you, but that was a great countdown. Everything sounded great. Right on time, actually a little ahead of time.
Nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts.
Got a good orbit out of Falcon 9, and first stage landed on the drone ship. And we're in the sunlight over the Atlantic Ocean with the Dragon spacecraft. All in all, a great day.
I think everybody's jealous of the crew in orbit right now, John. These views, even just from the cameras, are absolutely stunning. It was great to see our crew members get into orbit. They already performed successful checkouts of the 12 service section Dracos around Dragon. The next milestone will be the deployment of the nose cone. That'll be about a 5-minute process, but that'll expose the forward bulkhead Dracos and prepare them for checkout. There's a phase burn. There's 5 major burns that are needed to get the Crew Dragon up to rendezvous with the International Space Station over the next 23 hours. And so that first phase burn is coming up real soon in about 35 minutes, actually less than 35 minutes. Jesse, I don't know if you could see the 0G indicator, but I was told it's a penguin. I'm trying to look for it.
I'm looking for it too. Keep an eye out on that left-hand screen.
Meanwhile, the Dragon is configured for a nose cone deployment. We'll stand by for when that sequence starts. The nose cone itself opens just beyond 90 degrees, about 105 degrees, to expose the forward bulkhead Dracos. Those forward bulkhead Dracos, 4 of them at the very top of the Dragon, will do the bulk of the work when it comes to firing the Draco.
Hello, everyone. Welcome on board Endeavour. We're a couple hours into the flight, making our second lap around the Earth. Right now, we're over kind of eastern South Africa, so it's really great looking out our windows, and we get to see some pretty cool stuff up here. But we had an incredible launch. Hopefully, you guys got to watch it this morning. Right as the sun was rising, we took off. We chased the sun pretty quickly and caught it up just a few minutes after we took off. That was pretty special to see the sunlight coming in shortly after liftoff. We're going to show you around the vehicle real quick, and hope you guys really enjoy it. And I'll pass it over to our pilot, Megan MacArthur.
Hello, Earth. It's great to be back in space again after a few years for me. The ascent was incredible. The ride was really smooth. We couldn't have asked for anything better. There may have been some hooting and giggling up here while all that was going on. We hope you enjoyed the show as well. I'm kind of relearning. I'm like a baby bird here, relearning how to move around in microgravity. It feels really good, but it feels a little bit weird too. Fortunately, it's a nice small space that I can relearn to move around together. I'm going to hand it over to Thomas, who's going to show you around a little bit of what I up here.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. I'm Thomas, Mission Special Hub, your tour guide today in the Crew Dragon Endeavour capsule. Thanks for flying with us. Welcome on board. Our commander, Shane Kibro. Welcome your pilot, Megan MacArthur. Also, and next will be Aki Hoshide. So as you see, it's pretty roomy. The ride up was fantastic. This is the hatch behind this. Of space, harsh temperature, bad environment, bad stuff. Inside, very comfy. We feel very well protected. Everything is great. If you get closer, you can get a view out the window, and I'll try to give you that if the cable's long enough. And this is what we get to see. Coming up on Madagascar, but it's cloudy. I don't think you get a good view. But we'll try to get pictures, and I can show you maybe the cargo area down there, because this vehicle is bringing people up to space, but also cargo. And if you follow me, and I'm going to flip and try not to make everybody sick, down there is where we have a little cargo. There's freezers. This is our suits, nicely packed. This is some more cargo. We have our water landing equipment. And this is all nice and tidy. And behind those walls are a lot of other equipment that we need, clothes, food, and etc. So with that, now that you're familiar with the capsule, I'm going to hand you over to Akihiko Hoshide, Aki for short, from JAXA, and he's going to give you some more information.
Hello, Earthlings.